Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Before we launch into the podcast, I'd like to tell you about my book, Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story. This is a book for people who are at a crossroads in life and want to make a fresh start. Judging by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I suspect that you may well be one of those people. This book is going to help you to change your narrative and rewrite the scripts in life that are holding you back. This book covers the latest science and research showing you how to become the person you want to be and live the life that you want to live. I'd like to invite you to get this book not only because I feel it's a great book that's going to help you, but also it's going to support the podcast as well. I love podcasts, but sometimes all of those ads that you get can be really irrelevant and annoying when you just want to listen to a good piece of training or a good interview. So I therefore made the decision with my podcasts that number one, I wanted my podcast to be free so that everyone could listen to it. And number two, that I wasn't going to fund it through all these annoying and irrelevant adverts and commercials. Therefore, if you want to support the podcast and support all the things that I put out there for free, whether it be here on the podcast, my YouTube channel, other areas on social media, then buying a book is going to enable and help that process. So this is what we call a win-win scenario. By buying the book, you help to support my work and all the free stuff that I put out there, and you also get a really transformational book that's going to help you make those changes that you really want in your life. So if you feel you're someone who's at that crossroads in life, you're looking for a new direction, you're looking for a fresh start, then make sure you get this book. Author Your Life, Become the Hero of Your Story is available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Whatever your preferred medium, it's there for you to go get right now. Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Author Your Life podcast. In today's episode we have Gordana Ross. Gordana suffered from overwhelm, exhaustion, anxiety, low energy, sugar cravings, brain fog, insomnia, and lack of purpose, which led her down the path to physical and mental exhaustion and eventually burnout. However, hitting rock bottom made her uncover her real passion and her real life purpose. After becoming a certified nutritional therapist and certified holistic health and life coach, Gordana improved her quality of sleep, learned how to detox her body and mind, doubled her energy, and created a healthy work-life balance. Gordana's unconventional, holistic approach consisting of love, compassion, and non-judgement inspires her clients to reclaim their health. In today's interview with Gordana, you are going to learn how to balance income and freedom, why your health should always come first, the difference between being nice and being kind, and why people get burned out. Without any further preamble, allow me to introduce this interview with Gordana Ross. Gordana, welcome to the Author Your Life podcast.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, David. I really appreciate that.
I'm pleased to have you here. We're going to delve a little bit into who you are and what you do. And for everyone who comes on the podcast, I always like to find out a little bit about the individual's why. Why are they doing? What is their purpose? What is their reason behind everything? So could you share with the audience why you got into doing the branch of work that you do right now?
Well, where to start? I think finding your purpose is definitely something that I didn't have for a long time. And I'm not even quite sure how this all started. It was definitely like from an early age, I always had the desire to travel. I don't know why. I always had that feeling of I want to travel the world. I want to see different things. And I was the only one in my family who had that desire. And now I kind of understand why. But back then I didn't really understand why there's such a strong feeling pulling me like in all these directions in all these countries. So I was brought up raised in Switzerland, and we in Switzerland it's it's a completely different life and lifestyle than they have in the UK or in Scotland. You are kind of raised to always be better than others if you want to succeed in life. And because I come from a working class family, we never really had much money. And I always said, I want to earn so much money that I can travel the world. I was never materialistic. For me, it was always like traveling the world. And also to feel, for confidence reason, and to, you know, to kind of better your self-esteem, you had to become someone. So if you were just working in a shop or just selling clothes, wasn't good enough. So there was always this pressure there of having to do better than others and exceeding in everything, and so I felt like a lot of pressure from an early age, not from my parents' side, funnily enough. They never really pressured me into anything. They just said, finish your school and, and then whatever you want to do. So I didn't really have that motivation from home to do that. But I just felt like from an early age that I wasn't good enough. And I always had to prove myself. And it started in school by being better than the others, so I would feel better about myself. And and I think jobs means having more time to do all the things that I want to do and travel and, being able to afford all of this. And so over the years, I kind of climbed up the ladder and had quite interesting jobs. But at the same time, I was making more money, but my health was deteriorating. And the dream of being able to do what I wanted to do just didn't really happen, So I only managed to really go away and do proper traveling by quitting my job, having to do that, because you couldn't just take 4 or 5 weeks holidays and go away and do your things. So I ended up getting stressed, like really, really, really stressed. I was living with this permanent pressure of having to I don't know, just be the best all the time to keep my job, and competition was really hard as well. So yeah, I had the money that I could have used to do all these things, but it was really, really hard because I didn't have the time. So and that's one big thing I realize now. I know now that I should have done better in the past, and that's spending more time on self-care, looking after myself, after my health. Sometimes when we're young, we think we're invincible and we can just keep going and keep doing things and it's not going to affect us. And then, sometimes life can change suddenly. And it actually did for me. And although I managed somehow to travel to 45 different countries over the past 30-something years, I realized the one thing that really kind of got me to travel so much was when I was traveling, I managed to be myself. So when I was traveling, nobody knew me. I was usually traveling on my own, and I could just be me, my authentic self. I didn't have to pretend to be someone else because, I was a people pleaser. I wanted to be everybody's friend. I wanted to be everybody's best colleague at work. I wanted to be liked by everyone. And I think in the process, I forgot who I was. And the only thing I knew about myself is that I loved traveling. So that was the one thing I just knew. And so, yeah, it came to the point where I was working so much, so hard, that I got sick. I got constantly sick. I had shingles. I had constantly flus and colds, and I never used to be sick. And then all of a sudden, my body was just telling me, hey, you need to slow down. Working 60, 70 hours a week is not healthy. Sleeping with your BlackBerry under your pillow is not healthy. And I was just so driven. I just wanted to prove myself to myself and to everybody else that I'm good at what I'm doing. And I was, but I didn't have a life. I didn't go out anymore with friends because I was exhausted. I would sleep on the weekends because I could not keep my eyes open. I was exhausted. I was the first in the office in the morning and I was the last to leave. And it's not like I owned the company or I was a director or anything, you know. So this kept going. And then when I met my husband, and we lived in Switzerland, he's Scottish, and we got married, moved to Scotland, that was the moment where I started to fall into depression. And it's not, I'm not blaming my husband, or I'm not blaming Scotland. Don't take me wrong. But it was like, while I was still in Switzerland, I was in my comfort zone in a way. I know I was highly stressed, and I knew that I couldn't keep going like that. But in a way, I had my kind of comfort zone, my safety zone. I knew people there, and things were familiar. And then I was kind of ripped out of this comfort zone. I moved to a country where I didn't know anybody, where I had no family, no friends. And that was a time where also my mom got sick. She had breast cancer, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there for her, and it was so hard. And that was the start of a deep, deep depression, where I just started to kind of, where I was sucked into this dark hole. And there were days I couldn't get out of bed. I was just crying. I just felt so sorry for myself and so miserable, and I didn't even know why. And the worst thing is, I didn't want to talk about this. I didn't tell anybody. My husband was the only one, because he experienced me at my worst, but I did not want anybody to know how I felt, because I didn't want to be judged. And yeah, I just kind of put a brave face on, but this all took its toll on my health. And to cut a long story short, probably already did a long story, but I ended up in hospital. I completely collapsed. I burned out. I mean, that was probably the second or third burnout, but this time it was really, really, really bad. And the one thing I remember is I was in a hospital abroad, actually, because in the UK, they didn't really think it was a big problem, and didn't really think I needed surgery, but I was living with horrendous pain. So the moment that I became suicidal because of that pain, I couldn't live with that pain, I said to myself, I need to do something, and I need to do something now. So I had to go abroad, to go to a hospital to get that sorted. But I remember I was lying in that bed, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing here. I didn't know why this is happening to me. And I was alone. I never felt more alone in my whole life. And I just knew, I said, okay, I was praying there. I'm not very religious, although I do believe in God, but I'm not really religious. But that moment I was praying to God, and I said, if my life is going to continue like that, please don't let me wake up after the surgery. And if I do wake up, then please give me the strength to change something, anything, whatever it is. I'll do whatever it takes. I can't live like this anymore. And of course, I did wake up. And, and I thought I would wake up and I would just know what I was going to do. But that's not the case. You wake up and you feel shit. I'm still in that same situation. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, obviously I survived the surgery, but what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with my life? I spent all these years working so hard to become someone. But what I did realize in that moment is, yes, I became someone, but I didn't become myself. And it was just like this light bulb moment, that I realized I need to do something that makes me happy here and rich in my heart. And that still allows me to work with people, to help people in a way. I just realized there's so many things I could do, but it means starting all over again. And I was tired, I was exhausted, I had no energy. And yet something was just driving me in that direction. So after I recovered, I started reading a lot of kind of self-help books. I watched The Secret. I was reading all these books on personal development, and many years ago, I went to Tony Robbins' life event, Unleash the Power Within. But I was too young back then to realize what this is all about. So a couple of years ago, I went again, and it was amazing. It was just so empowering, and I knew I was on the right path. So after my recovery, I decided not to contract anymore, not to put that pressure on me to work 6 months, 12 months or so doing a job that I didn't enjoy. I knew I wanted to do something more meaningful, something I really felt like helping people in a way, or just do something completely different. And by the way, my background was in marketing, event management, and project management, mostly in financial services. So that probably explains a little bit about my long working hours. And so I was just thinking, what can I do? How can I combine my passion for travel and my passion for organizing things as an events manager? I loved, putting events together and all this. What can I do? And at the same time, helping people and feel like I'm doing something useful, something that I might be remembered for. So I didn't really know what direction I want to go to, but I was interested in food and nutrition and what's going on, just because I was getting so sick and so ill. I wanted to learn about how these things happen in our body, why. And food played a big role, because I was just a sugar junkie. I was just eating rubbish, and that explains why I had no energy and why I felt tired most of the time. So I started to study nutrition and become a nutritional therapist. And I realized that wasn't quite enough, but I was on the right path. But I wanted to do something a little bit deeper, like be able to dig into the psychological side of things. And I stumbled across this health coach. It's called the Health Coach Institute. It's an American organization that trains people to become health coaches. And it totally resonated with me. It cost a fortune. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to invest all that money, But that was the start of actually when I started investing in myself, in trainings and I always did over the years a lot of trainings, but it was not really a personal training. And so the health coaching course, I really did that to discover more about myself. And it was so amazing what I discovered going through that education and learning all these things about myself and how I can help others. And then after that, I went on. I was so pumped. I was like, I want to learn everything. I want to help people change their lives, and I want to change the world. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to help to change the world, to make it a better place. So then I went on to study life coaching with Robbins Madana's training. And I just knew, yes, I have to do the coaching side of things, because that's what really, really made me thrive. Like really want to get up in the morning and get out and do all these things. And yeah, so that's the long story of how I ended up doing. But it just gives you a bit of an idea. And it's interesting. A lot of fellow coaches, the people I studied with, they went through similar things in life. And sometimes we're just so blind, when we grow up, we listen to all the other people who have all these expectations about us, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, what we can't do. As a child, I remember I would dress up in my mom's clothes, wear her high heels that were about that much too big. I would have a wee play microphone and I would sing. I always wanted to become a singer. And then I wanted to become an actress. I was a little drama queen and doing all these things. And I loved that. And I now realize that I was searching for myself, for, authenticity. And I think this creativity inside of me somehow died over the years, because I was pushed into this scheme, into this kind of, you have to do this then. And like in Switzerland, if you can't afford to go to uni, you do your apprenticeship somewhere, something, and then you do further education and so on. So everything is mapped out for you. And if you don't follow that path, then you're almost an outcast, which I didn't want to be. So it just all makes sense. And so for me to give up all of this and just the thought of all the money I spent on further education to become, PR, whatever it was, and marketing and all these things, was really hard to let go of that and to start afresh from scratch. So I don't know if you had a similar path or you feel the same, but I know from talking to people that so many people have the same experience, and they say it was nothing was more liberating than just let go of the old baggage and start again and actually do what you're meant to be doing, because it's in your heart it makes you happy. That makes sense.
There's a lot of different things that I want to pull out from that. I think I'm just going to start chronologically. I think that's the easiest way to keep it organized in my head. Going back to when you were talking about first going into your career, and this idea that you were doing your career because you wanted to travel. The reason why you wanted to earn X amount of money was so you had all this money to travel with. The irony, of course, being that you spend all of your time earning that money that you don't actually have any of the time left over to spend it. And I think this is a conundrum, a conflict that a lot of people are facing in today's workplace. If I think to sort of my cohort, 20-something professionals, when they're going in, a lot of people my age, I think, are working for reasons beyond the sake of work. It's because they want to travel or because they want to facilitate a certain lifestyle. And then the irony is that the very vehicle that they're using to try and get this lifestyle is then keeping them caged and encased in work.
Yeah.
What advice would you give, or is there any insight that you can offer as to how, I'm saying people my age, it's not just people my age who face this, but anyone who is working to facilitate something, whether it's the travel, whether it's lifestyle, whatever, but they're working too much, and the irony is that they're getting further away from that than they've ever been before. How do people marry up this desire for a certain way of life and also be able to create the income to support it? Can they have their cake and eat it? Can they have both?
I think you can actually. It takes a lot of courage to just say no, to learn to say no to all these other voices telling you what to do, to learn to be more intuitive, to listen to your gut feeling. And I would say especially to younger people. I mean, I'm 46 now, so I'm still young, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 20-somethings that are maybe standing on a crossroad thinking, right, okay, if I go this way, I can make a lot of money. But if I go that way, I can have my dream job and I can actually do what I want to do. So what I would say is follow your heart, follow your gut feeling. You can still make money if that's what you want, with what you love. It might take a bit longer, or you might not make the same amount of money, but you will be happier and you'll be healthier and you'll have fun. You can actually enjoy what you're doing. You can grow with what you're doing. Yeah. Whereas wasting all these years, for me, it's not, I wouldn't say, yes, I did say that, didn't I? But in a way, I know I have to correct myself. There's a reason why I had to do this. But at the same time, I think if someone had spoken to me like this and said, listen, you can do different things and still feel good about what you're doing, feel good about yourself and feel important, feel needed. You don't need to work yourself silly and get sick. So my advice would be, do what you want to do. Find a way of making things happen. We live in a time now where, my God, we have all this internet. We can do all these online trainings. We can do this on the side. You don't need to travel anymore. I remember back in the good old days, I had to still go and travel to classes, to school. I had to, drive into Zurich. I was living outside, and it took me like 3/4 of an hour to get there. Then I had like 3 hours of school classes, evening classes, after work. And then you come home and it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and on the weekends as well. And it just drains your energy so much. And it's not worth it, punishing your body for that. And yeah, try and do the things that you really, really, really want to do. Find a way of doing it. There's so much help out there now on the internet. Surround yourself with people who do what you want to do. Learn from them. Learn from the best. Get yourself a coach. Get yourself a mentor. Find the money to do that somehow. There's always a way to do that. I didn't know anything about these kind of things. I do have a mentor now, and I did have several coaches. But back then, I didn't know about this kind of help. And I don't know how things would have turned out. I mean, I don't, the past is in the past. But if you're listening to that and you're at that age where you think, oh, I should be starting, to be serious about what I want to do in life, find out what it is that you're really, really passionate about. This is where your strengths lie, not how good at you were at maths or in school. If it's not your passion, you're not going to succeed in that. You're just not. Yeah. You're not going to. So find your passion. Find that part in your life that you're strongly passionate about, because that's at the same time that's going to lead you to find your purpose in life. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I would also suggest listening to podcasts as a good way of educating yourself. Just throwing that one out there.
Absolutely. That's why we're doing this, so we can help others not to make the same mistakes, right?
But of course, we're already preaching to the choir who are listening to the podcast already. There's something else that, again, really interested me talking about your story and reflecting on this conflict of work and how much I should work, and thinking of career advancement as a whole, especially when you're first starting out. And something you were talking about was this pressure in the Swiss culture to always be better and always to be improving. And this is something that I've spoken to a few people about, and it's something that I face myself, is on one area, having high aspirations for your life and trying to be better and trying to do better work and trying to grow in lots of different areas of your life, but also putting a pressure and an unrealistic expectation on yourself, or sacrificing health, happiness, love, fulfillment, whatever it might be, trying to meet these aspirations. And again, is there a balance between the two, just as there was with career? How can you balance being aspirational for yourself, but equally taking care of yourself and not getting lost in this journey towards your aspirations?
I think the one thing that everybody should be doing is putting themselves first. Like, as a person, your health, your desires. Because once you get sick, no matter what you do, you're not going to enjoy life. You can have millions sitting in your bank account. If you're so sick, so ill that you can't travel anymore, that you can't go to places that you want to go, you can't do the things, you can have 5 cars sitting in your garage. If your health if you're not well, whether it's mentally or physically, it doesn't matter. So my advice is always put yourself first, your health and your desires, what you want to do. Everything else will fall into place. You'll find you obviously you need to look for coaches or mentors or help elsewhere to get you where you want to be. So that's what I said earlier. Surround yourself with people who have already what you want to have, and whatever you do it with love and passion. If you don't feel passionate about it, if you don't like what you do, then you're not meant to be doing it. And I'm not saying like, for example, as an entrepreneur, I do so many things myself. I want to do the marketing myself, I do the bookkeeping myself, and it drains me. But there are times where I say, okay, right, maybe I need to outsource something. You don't have to do everything yourself. So don't waste this positive energy doing things that you don't enjoy. If you really absolutely hate something, outsource it. Find someone who, you know, gets paid to do it, because that's what obviously they enjoy doing, or even not, but that's not your problem. But no, do you know what I mean? Focus on what you're good at, because that's going to be your driver. That's going to be the thing that's going to drive you to achieve your goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And a balance. You know, I always say, when you speak to successful people, and even though they maybe work 60, 70 hours a week, they don't see it as work, because it's their passion. That's their life work. That's their, you never hear this, you never hear Richard Branson talking about, oh, when am I going to retire? You don't hear these people talking like that, because they love what they do. They have achieved something in their lives that is part of their life. It's not just, this is my private life and this is work. No, it's their life. So if you can find your purpose in life and combine this with passion and love and just be a kind person, you can get really far, and you will find that balance. Because even though you have to work a bit harder at the beginning to get things going, you're going to do it with enthusiasm. You're going to do it with love. You're going to be pumped with all that energy, because you're doing the right thing. You're doing the things that you love.
Yeah. So you are offering the wisdom of experience here, and your story really demonstrates that, Gordana. I'd like to return to that moment of critical mass, the sort of the zenith of this experience. When you had that night in the hospital and you prayed for the strength to keep on going the next day, where did you go from that moment? What were the first steps when you woke up and you're like, right, this needs to change, I need to do something differently? Can you remember how you began that process for yourself?
Well, it took months. It took months and months of feeling sorry for myself, feeling lost, feeling not loved. Oh, there were so many things that were just kind of crashing down on me on top of that. So I think I thought I was already down, but I think I just pulled myself probably almost 6 feet under with feeling sorry for myself. It was a long process. It probably took over 6 months or maybe longer. I don't know, I kept kind of working, but I went in a slightly different direction. So I definitely knew I have to leave financial services. I didn't want to be in this environment with backstabbing and bullying and all this. I couldn't cope with that anymore. So I left that. I went to work for charities, and I just kind of changed direction. I had to try it. I didn't know. It's not like you wake up after something horrible happened to you and you just know, you're none the wiser, you know. But the only thing I knew is, or the only thing I was sure was, I have to find my purpose. I don't have a purpose. Because I was asking myself, what can I do? What am I good at? There's so many things I'm good at. I'm a good cook. I can say that because people keep coming back and they're still alive. So, so I know, you know, I'm good. I love cooking. I'm a passionate cook. I love creating things. So I started making a list for myself. First, it was like just all in my mind while I was recovering, and then I started writing things down. I started writing all the things down that I'm good at, and then I started to narrow it down to the things that I'm not just good at, but the things that I love doing. And so, and that's how my whole journey actually started. I'm like, right, okay, I love food. I am interested in whatever happens with food. And then obviously the whole stress situation and burnout made me question my lifestyle. So I started looking into, how can I change my lifestyle to become happy and healthy again? And so it's mainly, as you can probably see, loads and loads of books, and I just love reading, and I just never really had time to read. But that was the time where I started reading books that I had even in my shelves for maybe 10, 15 years that I never really touched, but that were all about personal developments and you know, finding your purpose and so on. So I really started looking in those areas for answers to my questions. And when your energy changes, you attract different kinds of people. So I think my move to Scotland helped me to distance myself from people that were poisonous in my life, that were like really not good people in my life, that were dragging me down, that only came to me when they needed help, but were never there when I needed them. And that was a good moment to let go of these people and just to say, you know what, I'm worth so much more. And that was the next thing I needed to work on my self-esteem. That was non-existent. That was like, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. Why should I ever succeed? Why would someone love me? And all this carry on. So I had to build myself up first. And then I became hungry for like learning more about these things. And it transformed my life. And it just slowly, like at the end of the tunnel, I saw the light. And it wasn't a train, luckily. So it was, it was a strong, like kind of direction that I knew I had to do that. And even though it could have been the train, I took the risk. I just said, you know what? I'll never find out if I don't try it. And if it's not for me, then I can turn around or I can take a different direction. But it's all about trying. Mm-hmm. Trial and error. Do the things. And I believe that if you follow your heart, if you do what your heart tells you to do, if you're happy, that when you wake up in the morning and you actually want to get out of bed and you want to sit down and do all these things, that's a sign that you're on the right path. That's a sign that you are meant to be doing this because you love doing it. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Gordana, have you ever come across a concept called ikigai? It's sometimes pronounced as ikigai. As you were talking about when you started making that list of finding what you're good at and finding what you love, this is something that I teach quite a lot in my work, is about this Japanese concept of ikigai. Comes from the culture of Okinawa, which is where some of the people who live the longest in the world, they live. And they have this concept called ikigai, which translates roughly as, depending which translation you look at, reason for being or the happiness of always working. A couple of different translations. And they talk about this. They say that your ikigai is combining something that you love, something that you're good at, something the world needs, and something you can get paid for. It's like these 4 concentric circles, and they come together and meet in the middle. And it sounds like you stumbled upon that a little bit yourself in your own personal explanation. So I was just wondering if you'd heard of that and come across it.
I learned this in my mentorship program. So I was on a 1-year mentorship program that actually comes to an end this month, at the end of this month. And so my mentor was Marisa Murgatroyd, who was trained by Brendan Burchard, one of the best coaches in the world. And so she was talking about ikigai. I call it ikigai because I don't really know how to pronounce it.
I used to call it ikigai as well, because that's like the English, how you pronounce it phonetically. But then I found out after about 1.5 years of saying ikigai, it's actually ikigai.
Ikigai, okay. So
I've now corrected myself.
So she said everything is built on that principle, that you have this right balance of all these things that you mentioned, like, who you are, do the things that you love, serve the people, help people solve their problems and still be yourself and your true, authentic self. And I think finding that right balance is so important, because you have to make a living. You're not just because you're a kind person doesn't mean you should do everything for free. You have to make a living, and money is only energy anyway. So you exchange this for something in return. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, when it comes to paying for something, investing in yourself. If it's not tangible, that's something I help my clients with as well, to actually make that empowered decision to invest in themselves and to say, you know what, if you want something to change in your life, you have to really want to make that change. And you might get some things for free, but most of the things you have to make an investment. And I can understand that it's not so easy for people to invest in something that is not tangible. When you buy yourself a new car or a new handbag and new shoes, you know exactly what you're getting for that money.
Yeah.
But when you invest in yourself, you don't know what the result is. But let me assure you that no matter what you do, there will be hit and misses. I bought programs that I haven't even finished yet. Maybe one day I will, but that's fine. That's part of life. Maybe I'm just not ready yet, or maybe it wasn't what I needed at that time. But you will, as you go along, you will transform your life, and you will start investing in the right things that will actually get you to where you want to go. And if you just start believing in yourself and in the things that you do for yourself, as I said, there will be risks. There will be things that you probably think, oh, you know what. But I mean, honestly, how many times did you buy shoes that you never wore? I'm one of these people, or maybe not so much
too
as a
many,
man.
but I'm a guy. We're not quite well, I say we're not quite the same about shoes. There are some guys I know, and I'm like, why have you got 12 pairs of Nike trainers? Like, you've only got one.
The women's thing. But you know what I mean? I mean, it could be like, how many times did you buy a top, maybe, or something? Maybe this is really a women thing. But often we buy things that we don't really need, or we use it once and we put it away, and it's wasted money as well. So, even though you knew what it looks like, you knew what it does, you could still make a mistake there, or pay for a holiday that you think is great, and then it's an absolute disaster. You just don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that if you want to make a change in your life, no matter what it is, start with yourself. If you want to change the people in your life, in your environment, you can't change them, but you can start changing yourself, and you will attract different kinds of people. Yeah. So that's one of the first things I had to do. I had to change the way I was looking at things, my perception, my beliefs, get rid of limited beliefs and all these kind of things. And it's very hard to do this by yourself because you don't know how. And that's what coaches are here for. Mentors and coaches who can guide you through this process, people who have done it and who have succeeded in that. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself, but start doing something before you burn out. That's my advice.
Yeah. So following on from that, looking at changing yourself and working on yourself first, what do you do now that you've gone through this process and now that you're further along the journey? Are there any habits, practices that you recommend doing on a consistent basis that helps you show up at your most energized, your most optimized for all the things that you do in life? Yeah,
definitely. There are. I was never good at routines or having a routine in life, other than the 9 to 5 things. Yeah. But the one thing that I learned, and that took me a long time to get used to it, is actually meditate first thing in the morning. If I don't do it now, it's like I haven't brushed my teeth. I wouldn't leave the house not brushing my teeth. So for me, meditation has become a fundamental necessity. It's something fundamentally important to me. So what I do the first thing in the morning, unless there's really I'm having to go to the airport at 4:00 in the morning, but then I would do it on the plane. But usually I try not to do anything else until I had my meditation. And have a large glass of water or something first thing in the morning to help you to detox before you do anything else, before you even eat something. There's so many things you can do. There's routines, like you can go for a walk outside. I have a dog, so I have that routine every day anyway, so my dog forces me out no matter what the weather's doing. Which I wouldn't normally do. So let's say if the weather is bad, I would just sit in front of my computer all day and I would probably never leave the house. I would never see a soul. So try to build a routine, things in your life that do you good. And it's hard at the beginning because it's like, oh, I need to do this now. Oh, I have to meditate. But once you start feeling the difference, the transformation, and what it does to you and how it relaxes you, and oh, I don't know, I just don't want to live without that anymore. It's amazing. You just feel energized. And then it's the same with everything you do, like, you know, changing your diet, eating foods that give you energy. When I tried to get rid of sugar, I was a sugar addict. I mean, my God, I could not imagine up in Switzerland and not
Yeah.
imagine not having my daily dose of chocolate. Oh, you know, you had told me ever, like, let's say a year ago, 2 years ago, that I would give up like sweets and chocolates and all this, I would have just laughed. I would say, don't be silly, I can't do that. But we can do a lot more than we actually were aware of, if we really want to. If you put your mind to something that is important to you, if you know it's going to change your life in a positive way, in a way that you've never experienced before. And this is why I love what I do, when I help my clients do exactly that, and I can see the transformation, and they say, oh my gosh, I actually sleep through the night, I feel better, I have my routine, like not go to bed late, and just get the rest that you need. You don't need to have 10 hours of sleep. Some people are fine with 6 hours of sleep, but if it's a good quality sleep that you get, you're fine. So try to find what's best for you, a routine that really serves you, your health, your well-being in general, whatever it is. Some people love to get up at 5 o'clock. You know, I don't know if you know the 5 o'clock.
I was up at 5 o'clock this morning.
But they made it the rule, you know, like getting up at 5 o'clock, meditate, and then do a 15-minute workout. First thing in the morning, sweat. I've got this thing, that the 5 daily rituals that I printed out that Robin Sharma is teaching.
Oh, yeah.
So like one of them is rise early and start a day sweating. And then they schedule time for all things you do daily, like really have it scheduled. Because it just helps you to move forward with whatever you do. And then, schedule 1 hour a day of learning. That's the thing that I do every single day. I take that time for my personal development, whatever it is. Just read for an hour, or watch an educational video, or watch a podcast, learn from people. It's unbelievably powerful to do something like that. So have that routine that really helps you to become the person that you want to be.
Yeah. You're speaking about working with your clients and sort of the journey that you take them on, and the process that you go through. With the people who are coming to you quite often stressed, burnt out, not looking after themselves, do you see a common pattern across lots of people where there's something that people are consistently not doing right, or neglecting, or in some way not looking after themselves properly?
Yeah, I mean, I would say pretty much everyone is putting themselves last. So the people pleasers, they can't say no, they feel guilty taking time out for themselves. These are very, very typical patterns. Not having time to prepare healthy meals, that's another thing. But quite often they feel, especially women with children or families, they feel guilty taking time out for themselves. They feel so guilty if they just go for a massage. You know, they're like, oh, I'm in absolute horrendous pain, but I can't take this hour out of my time for myself. And it's like, this is so wrong. It's the limited beliefs that people have. It's the wrong kind of beliefs, because they think if they put themselves first, that they're selfish people. And I have to really help them to reprogram their brains and saying, you know what, imagine how much better of a mother you are when you have more patience, when you're more relaxed, when you're not stressed, when you actually enjoy going to the football games with your son, when you actually, you know, enjoy taking your daughter to the ballet, and you're not just stressed, and you're not just constantly thinking of, oh, you know, what do I need to do next? You are so much more fun to be around with your friends, family, when you look after yourself. So that has nothing to do with being selfish. That has to do with actually thinking of everybody else around you as well. Because I know when I was highly stressed, I was horrible to be around. I'm surprised my husband's still around. He would just sometimes say, "Oh Christ, she's got one of her moments. Right, I'm out," or whatever. And that made me rage even more. It's like, oh, you don't appreciate things, and then things kind of explode, and then you feel bad about it. And this is something that when I talk to my clients and I say, do you see where I'm coming from? This is not a happy life. This is not a good life. This is not good for your relationships at work or at home or with your family or friends. But if you have that balance in life, if you feel more relaxed, if you don't even let yourself get to that stage that you're so stressed and so overwhelmed, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, but I don't know how to do it and all this," and I said, well, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things people need to work on is setting their boundaries. They don't do that, and that's why they pulled in all directions, and that's how you get sick. And once you collapse, once you burn out, you're no good to anybody. So do whatever it is that you do, get help, whoever it is that you ask for help, but do something about it before you burn out, before you get sick, before you get a heart attack, before your body collapses, and all these terrible illnesses that are out there. I believe that that's just due to a huge amount of stress, lack of physical activity, and the wrong diet, a poor diet. And that's why when I work with clients, I include nutrition and diet things into my practice. I'm not just working on mindset and meditation and how to calm yourself down. There's a lot more that I do, and because I believe that these things are interconnected. Your gut and your brain are connected, and if one doesn't function properly, the other one's not going to be happy either. Yeah. So there has to be this healthy balance within you. I'm not talking about work-life balance, because that looks different for every single person. Again, if you love what you're doing, you might be happy spending 80% of your time at work because that's part of you, that's your passion. Yeah. But if you hate your job and you still spend 80% of your time working, that's where the balance is wrong then, because it's not the happiness. It's not the 80% of time you spend being happy and loving what you're doing. It's spending 80% of your time hating what you're doing. And that's going to make you sick. That's going to add more stress to yourself, emotional, physical, and mental stress. And that's going to drag you down, drain you. You're going to feel overwhelmed and, eventually burn out.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about a lot of different topics and covered a lot of different thoughts and areas. I'd like to just start creating our journey towards the end. I've got a few more questions I'd like to ask, and just because I always say this, that just because these are the last few questions, don't feel that the answers need to be short. And as I think, sometimes this part of the conversation takes just as long as the rest of the conversation. So feel free to continue to discuss and elaborate on what comes up. We've touched upon a couple of times relationships throughout this, and how work and stress can sometimes impact on your relationships. So with that in mind, how do you think we can bring more love into the world? Not just into our personal lives, but looking at our collective and looking at our societies. How do we bring more love into those as well?
I think a good start would be to stop judging people. First of all, stop judging yourself, so always start working on yourself first. And once you have that self-love, like the love for yourself, you'll be able to accept people for who they are and stop judging them, because it can really be very destructive. And I often used to criticize people in the past for things that I didn't like about them. And then quite often I realized these are the things I'm doing as well. Of course, I didn't realize it at that time, but it's like, you mirror sometimes other people, or they, come back to you with how you treat them. And when you start working on yourself, building that love for who you are as a person, you're going to become a kinder person naturally. I was always thinking, oh, but I'm nice. I'm a nice person. No, you don't want to be nice. You want to be kind, because kindness brings the best out in people. So if you want to spread love, if you want to be loved, A, you have to learn to love yourself, and B, you have to spread that love and share it with everybody. And just because someone might not be very nice, or might be a prick, excuse my language, you don't really know what's happening in their lives. You don't know what they're going through. Maybe someone is agitating you or being a complete asshole because he's going through cancer and he doesn't know how to deal with that. Maybe he doesn't have anybody who can talk about this. You don't know. You don't need to assume the worst, but there are people out there who are going through things that are the worst in their lives, and we don't know that. And if you treat them with kindness and show them that you don't judge them, it's amazing things happen like that. I've seen people turning 180 degrees and just totally opening up and showing their true self, and opening up and telling about what they're going through. And it's not feeling judged is the most amazing gift you can actually give someone you don't know. So be kind, don't judge people, and work on yourself, on the love for yourself. And that's just going to open so many new doors. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Moving from love to gratitude. Gordana, what are you grateful for right now?
Oh, I'm grateful for being alive in first place. Reading all these statistics about how many people die of stress-related illnesses, I am very grateful that I'm still here and that I had the chance to change my life. This is one of the things I practice with my meditation every day, gratitude. I used to even have a book where I wrote it all down, but now I just do it sometimes when I walk my dog. I notice the things around me. I look at the flowers. I listen to the birds. I smell the air of the trees, and I'm grateful for being able to experience that. I'm grateful for having been able to travel to so many wonderful countries. I'm grateful for all the people that I meet now in my life, that come to my life now, that enrich my life in every possible way. I'm grateful for people who make me laugh. And it's the small things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for every morning waking up and looking at this cute wee face of my dog and just, waiting to feed him, be fed. Small things. I'm grateful for having this opportunity to share the message with the world, for being here with you right now. And I think if you build up gratitude of so many small things, it's just going to grow, and your heart's going to grow, and you're just going to be so much more happier in life, more satisfied with what you have, rather than just chasing the big dreams and being disappointed all the time for things not happening. And I just always imagine, the horses when they have these things on, I don't know what you call that. Hey?
Blinkers.
Yeah.
The blinkers.
You see so many people going through life wearing these blinkers. They don't notice what's happening around them. And when you go through life like that, you miss out on the beautiful things that just happen around you. So this is something that I practice every day, because it's unbelievably important to, and it helps with your self-love, to go back to love. It's kind of combined, because the more your gratitude grows, the more your love grows.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. It does.
So
You
yeah,
were
it's a part.
you were talking earlier, very early on, about this pressure that you felt growing up and these expectations that are placed on all of us, I think, nowadays from a very young age about who we should be and the type of life that we should lead. And I think this is just increasing as time goes on, and all these things are starting younger and younger.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a 5-year-old child in front of you right now, 2019, and you've got to prepare them for growing up in the next 2 decades into adulthood, what would you be saying to this child? Any advice, any guidance to help them to grow and develop into the person they're capable of being?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't have children myself, so I haven't been in that situation having to do that. But if it was my child, the one thing I would try to do is let the child be a child in first place. So let it unfold their creativities and do the things that they want to do. Let them make the mistakes. And one of the most important things is let them believe that they can do whatever they want to do. Like, I mean, in terms of, we are told as children so many times, don't do this, don't do that, you must do this. We don't really get the chance to be who we really are. And I think that's what I was struggling with growing up, not really knowing who I am. So I think even though they're only so young, you don't need to bombard them with all the negative things in the world, but let them live in their little world, believing that they're Superman, that they're Superwoman, that they can do what they want to do. Let them believe that they're special, that they're loved, that they're, even believe that they're invincible to a certain extent. You still have to tell, watch out, this is a sharp knife where you can burn your hand. But when it comes to everything else, they have to find their own way. So don't force things onto them to squeeze, to push them in a direction that is right for you, but let them discover what they're good at, what they're passionate about, and then help them to develop this area more. So if you see your child is super, super creative, then allow them to be creative. Let them explore the creativity. If your child loves to sing, let them sing, let them dance, let them dress up and do all these things. And just support them in any way you can. Let them make the decisions that will be right for them, not for you.
Yeah.
Does that explain it in a way? I don't have children, so it might sound easier than it is. And I know that I would say most parents want the best for their kids. They might not always end up doing the best because they might be overprotective and things like that. But let them be children in first place. They're going to grow up fast enough. And I see so many parents, without judging them, but I see that they try to do the best, but at the same time, they want their children to become them, literally.
Yeah.
They don't say that because they would say, oh no, I definitely don't want my child to become me, but they do, because that's what they know. They don't knowingly do it. But for someone standing outside and all the things that I've learned, I don't know if you heard of Mind Valley.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of Mind Valley, and just listening to Vishen and Vishen is the founder, one of the founders of Mind Valley, and listening to their, programs, their interviews of all these amazing people that they interviewed, and what they do. So they have once a year, I think it's called Mind Valley U.
Yeah.
They have it every year somewhere, and one day I'm going to be able to do this. Anywhere in the world, could be anywhere in the world. They have like for 5 or 6 weeks, they have this massive big kind of community, and you can come along, you can bring your family, And the children, they actually want to change the education system, that children learn from a young age, that they're given the tools that they need for life, especially for life as it is now. Just like our ancestors tens of thousands of years used to do. When the child was old enough, they would take it hunting, and they would take it doing the gathering and hunting things, and children would learn what was necessary to survive. Nowadays, we're bombarded, the children are bombarded with all these things that are meant to be doing at school, but there's no real life skills. And this is another whole other new conversation I get passionate about. And I think this is so wrong. Children at a young age now are already experiencing high levels of stress and burnout, and it's an absolute shame.
Yeah.
The world has to experience it. So my advice would be, tell a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or whatever that they're loved, and that they can become whatever they want to become. They'll figure it out later on, that not everything is so easy, but that's fine. They don't need to know this at that time. But give them that safety net, the security, and the love that they need, and let them be creative. So, in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of one person's childhood, and going back to think of your childhood, how has your life turned out differently from what you thought or what you expected?
Well, obviously, I'm not a famous actress, so
not yet.
in a girl band or whatever, touring the world. So that's definitely one thing that didn't work out for me, which doesn't mean it can't still happen. I'm working on it. No, I think I don't know. There's definitely a period in my life that wasn't very positive for a while, but I think that's just part of my life. This is who I am. This is what made me who I am now. It did make me a better person eventually, but I think I still have a lot of years ahead of me, and I think I'm gonna try my very best to maybe not become a famous actress. I think you need to be very young and free of wrinkles and everything nowadays. But there's so many things that I can still do that I always wanted to do. There's still a lot more. I've only discovered 45 countries, or traveled to 45 countries. There's still a lot more to do, and that's definitely on my bucket list. And just follow my heart and do whatever I feel like I want to do. Focus on that, not look back too much, but say, right, okay, it didn't work in the past, but there's still a future. And with what I do now, I can combine certain things that will allow me to do what I want to do, and being true to myself.
So fast forwarding from there, one day we're all going to meet our final day. We all have a finite amount of time here on Earth, and as we've kind of talked about and hinted so far, we're all looking for that purpose, that thing that we're supposed to do, that guiding driver. For you, when that final day comes some way into the future, how would you like to look back on your life, and what legacy would you like to have left during your time on Earth?
Well, I hope that my name will become a household name at some point. I mean, ideally I would be the female Tony Robbins or something like that. It doesn't need to be, as big as that, but I want to do a lot of good. I want to help a lot of people. I definitely want to be someone the world has heard of, not just in a podcast and not just by accident in a Facebook group, but a bit more. Yeah, I definitely want to leave my footsteps in making the world a healthier place. So I want to be involved in projects. I'm dreaming big. I want to run my own retreats that are coaching retreats that are going to be life-changing. They're going to be connected with nature, with animals and things like that. So I've got big plans that will allow me to travel, because I still have that passion for travel. I want to create something. I want to create this. I don't know. Maybe have these wonderful wellness clinics or wellness places around the world where people can just kind of book a few days, come and recover from stress, and to help prevent burnout, something like that. So I haven't quite figured this part out, but I'm dreaming big. I've got all these ideas what I want to do. So I want to be known in the kind of health and wellness industry for helping people.
So to help you get more known and get to that point, there's perhaps a few people who've been listening today who have enjoyed listening to the things that you've been sharing and have found some of your perspective and experience useful for them and their lives. For anyone who has been in the situation and has been listening and would like to find out a little bit more about you, the type of work that you do, some of the training and experience that you have, where would you be directing people to find out a little bit more information?
There's different places where they can find about me. I've got a Facebook page. It's called Rise to Health Coaching, and that's the name of my business, Rise to Health Coaching. So usually when you Google that, you'll find me. You'll find my website, of course, risetohealthcoaching.com, and my Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to do bits and bobs on Instagram as well. So it will probably pop up when you just Google risetohealthcoaching.com. And there's a lot of information about what I do, my coaching practice, about myself, my life story, or just, the relevant part of it. You can book your free health strategy sessions with me. So I offer 45-minute free strategy sessions, so you can see what it's like to work with me on a one-to-one basis. And there's a lot more information on that website. I do detox. I run detox, 14-day detox programs as well. So if you're not quite sure about a full coaching program, you might want to try and just give your body a wee rest and, just see what it's like. And I hope to see some of you there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gordana, thank you very much for coming on and sharing today. I've enjoyed listening to some of your perspective on your experiences, and being someone who has walked the talk, being someone who has that empathy and that shared experience to say, hey, you know what? I've been through this too. I know it sucks, but as you said in the conversation, there is that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. It is actually a real light. So thank you for sharing the openness of your experience, and also the optimism of you can create something better for yourself afterwards.
Thank you so much for having me here with you. I really enjoyed this. It's really nice to actually talk about these things and in a kind of interview format rather than just being on Facebook. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope it's useful for people. So please don't be afraid to speak about your issues, your challenges, whatever it is. Don't just swallow it down, and speak to someone you can trust. If you don't have anyone that you think you can talk to, there are people like me or David out there, coaches who you can go to. We're here to help you. And as I said earlier, we don't judge people. So you're in a safe place, safe environment, but do something about it. Don't just wait until it's too late. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be, because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.